I am ranked number one. One! That means I'm the best.
Highs and lows. David Haye lost the competitive fight by stoppage against Carl Thompson. He was floored against Lalenga Mock, got off the canvas and won. Lalenga was a lot lighter than Haye. The Enzo Macronelli unification fight was one of the highs. Got off the floor against Mormec in France to win the WBA cruiser title, beating the Man Mountain Valuev to win the WBA heavyweight title. The Tollgate debacle against Klitschko is one of the lows. The Audley Harrison defenses, all the defenses actually, didn't distinguish David Haye at all. Bellew was on the floor against Bob Azajafe in a good fight, but got up and won. On the floor a couple of times against Oval McKenzie, but won both fights. Lost to Nathan Cleverly for the WBC light heavyweight title in a close fight that could have went either way. The Adonis Stevenson fight didn't show up, did he? He didn't show up. Gained a measure of revenge over Cleverly in the rematch, though the first fight was way better, but a win is a win. The highlight is the Makabu win for the cruiserweight title. So let's break down the fight. I don't feel this fight is a sure thing for Haye. I just don't believe it is. I don't believe it is. He has the reach advantage. Bellew may have a half an inch or so height advantage, or it's even. There's nothing in that. But I think he's been active against the better opponents since Haye last fought a decent opponent, which was Derek Chisora. A lot of people make a big deal of David Haye's punching power at heavy, and it's not as formidable as people think it is. I believe Tony Bellew would knock out Audley Harrison. That's one of Haye's WBA title defenses. A fight with John Ruiz, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Bellew could knock out John Ruiz. I'm not sure, to be honest. What would happen if Tony Bellew today met the same John Ruiz that David Haye faced at heavy? But that's another guy David Haye knocked out. David Haye met Monty Barrett. Could Tony Bellew have knocked out Monty Barrett at the stage where David Haye met Monty Barrett? Barrett was, let's just say, past his best when David Haye fought Monty Barrett. Monty actually had him on the floor, in my opinion. It was a legit knockdown, but it wasn't called. Haye got rid of him in the next attack, though. Valuev took him the distance. Haye has not knocked out a prime heavyweight. I would even suggest that Anthony Joshua's victories, KO victories, over the likes of Dillian White undefeated, Dominique Brazil undefeated, Charles Martin, are just as good as anything David Haye has done. Some could argue better, some could argue worse. But, you know, there's not much in it for a great debate to be made. It's not worth a debate, to be honest. Haye has not knocked out any formidable heavyweights. He just hasn't. You could argue Haye has took out the more experienced names, but at what stage of their careers did he fight them? Anthony Joshua fought his opponents when they were unbeaten guys, prospects. He fought them when they were hungry prospects. The last hungry guy David Haye fought was Derek Chisora. And Derek had been beaten a few times, and has been beaten a few times since. Those who have followed my channel from the early days of when I started it, I broke down Haye and Chisora, and I told you why Haye was going to knock out Chisora. It was definitely a stylistic thing. Styles making fights. If Haye is in against a smaller heavyweight, he has more opportunity to show his special skills. He's not a guy like Tyson who can punch upwards at considerably larger men. And before he fought Vladimir Klitschko, he says, I'm going to have to put in a Tyson-like effort in there. And I thought Haye was going to win that, but that was the first red flag where I started thinking he can't win this fight, because he can't fight like that. I knew he couldn't fight like that. And there was also an exchange in a gloves are off between him and Klitschko, where Klitschko told him to shut his mouth, and Haye seemed to mentally shrink. That's just my opinion. Then I saw the ring walk to the ring, and, you just had a feeling that Klitschko was going to win it. But I thought Klitschko was actually going to knock him out by this stage, but Haye went the distance by moving around the ring. Now, Haye has exceptional foot speed, and if he uses it correctly, Bellew just won't be able to hit him. Bellew just doesn't have that foot speed. We've seen his feet in cement against guys like Nathan Cleverly in the second fight. And when he gets hit by them big bombs by Makabu and Flores, is it BJ Flores? He just doesn't have the foot speed to get out of the way of artillery. And sometimes he doesn't want to get out of the way of artillery. These are bad habits to break, not wanting to get out of the way. And against David Haye, unless you have the size and the reach where you can hold him off with a jab, double up that jab, lean on David Haye, or maintain range on him, you need to move your feet or your head. And if Bellew is reluctant to do that, the fight could be over very quickly. But if Bellew can set a pace and walk through them punches somehow, I don't know. And he's willing to do this as well. He's mentally prepared for this, Bellew. If he cuts David Haye, I believe, was Haye cut against Ruiz? I can't remember. Maybe he wasn't. No, I don't think he was. He wasn't. He was just exhausted. He was really tired and he was dominating the fight. And he was a lot younger then. When I broke down Haye and Chisora, I was actually using film footage, and I showed at least 2 instances when John Ruiz had David Haye on the ropes, and he threw these weak-looking jabs, and Haye just escaped. And I used it as an example of where Derek has to capitalize. He's got to make his punches count. Now, I believe at this stage of Tony Bellew's career, he's a bit sharper than John Ruiz, and I think he's at least near, or maybe a better puncher than Chisora. I don't know. He's untested at heavyweight. I don't know if he can punch at heavyweight. I do feel he has better trajectory on his shots than Chisora, though. But then again, he's untested at heavy. It all depends on how he can cut the ring off. If he can't cut the ring off and he just wildly chases after Haye, it will make it exciting, but it'll be a long night for Bellew. Like, Derek was trying to cut the ring off, but the foot speed wasn't quite there. So in a lot of instances, he was trying to hit Haye when he was actually moving away. And he did catch him a couple of times. But cutting down the ring correctly is going to be an integral part of any success that Tony Bellew has. Haye can punch while he's tired. He can actually do that. He done it against Fragamini. Was it Fragamini? Or there was one defense, a European defense at cruiserweight, where the gas tank looked like it was running down, but he still found the punches late in the fight to stop the guy. Haye was breathing heavy, and he was cut pretty badly. Against Chisora, a lot of people said he was flagging. I didn't really see it, but Chisora was pushing him hard. It was a hard pace, and David Haye still found the punches. Tony Bellew himself has took the fight because he believes in himself. He believes in his punching power enough that he could take a fight like this and make a name for himself. It's a gamble. It is a gamble. But life is a gamble, and boxing definitely is a gamble. He's turning his punches over extremely well now. Haye says he can just walk through Bellew's best. I'm going to suggest that he can't, or he shouldn't attempt to. He needs to be riding them shots. If they are landing, you need to at least be riding them. You don't want to be catching them full on the jaw like Flores or Makabu. He's hitting hard right now. Tony Bellew is hitting hard right now. In the rematch with Nathan Cleverly, it looked like he couldn't get no gas on his punches. You know, they both didn't distinguish themselves, him or Cleverly. But Cleverly now has a belt at light heavy, and Bellew has a belt at cruiser. But I think he's improved since the Cleverly rematch. I believe he's improved. His punching power's improved, at least. Bellew is not a wild brawler. He can stand up and box a little. He has a decent posture. He's not a wild brawler. He places his shots pretty well. But he does kind of encompass a bit of that football hooligan style. Take 2 to land 1. That come on, let's have it mentality. I believe Tony probably used to rock on the terraces against opposing supporters when they came to Goodison Park. Now, that's a bit of an allegation. And I think he has that mentality, and he takes that to the ring. He knows that life. And that could be exactly what David Haye doesn't need in his life right now. You know, he's 36 years of age. If Bellew can get in a similar position where Derek Chisora was 5 or 6 years ago, but take it to that 6th or 7th or 8th round, it's a big gamble and it's easier said than done. It's one thing saying it, it's another thing doing it. But if he can do that, that's where his chance will probably lie. Unless Haye gets very reckless early and gets clipped. His more likely route to victory will be dogging David Haye with the theory that Haye's gas tank is going to start depleting by the 7th, 8th and 9th rounds. With that theory, that will be his most likely scenario of a victorious outcome, Tony Bellew. He's the underdog. I think he's relishing that. But Bellew did a lot of talking before he fought Adonis Stevenson. And the confidence he was exuding, I think a lot of people believed in him. And when he got in the ring, he just ran literally on the back foot and didn't do any of what he said he was going to do. None of it. None of it at all. Kind of like Haye versus Klitschko. Done a whole lot of talking beforehand. The t-shirt with the decapitated heads. And when he got in the ring, we didn't see none of that. Bellew has more vulnerabilities. He has more ways of losing this fight than David Haye, in my opinion. But it's not a foregone conclusion. Tony Bellew has had fights that have went 10, 11, 12 rounds on several occasions while David Haye has been out of the ring. Haye says he's been sparring and preparing for matches, so he hasn't been totally inactive in a professional setting. It's not the same. Preparation for cancelled fights is not the same as actually being in the ring active. I think David Haye should win, but there was one telling thing that I'm going to bring to the table in the video. I'm not going to make no accusations. These are just observations, plus one statement from Tony Bellew. Very accusatory statement, let's just say that. I was looking at David Haye in The Gloves Are Off, and he had a short t-shirt showing his arms. I'm looking at the arms and I'm saying, is it the angle? Or do his arms look smaller than usual? It was at the back of my mind for the whole duration of the broadcast. Then, after the press conference in Liverpool in the hotel, different videos kept playing some of the same clips from different channels. And I kept hearing, on a few occasions, Tony Bellew say that David Haye was shrinking. Something clicked in my head that every time he said it, he said, oh, you're mentally shrinking. The pressure from the crowd and me, you're mentally shrinking. We're seeing you for what you are. No, he's actually talking about him physically shrinking since he was WBC ranked. And once you're ranked, I think, in a top 15 or top 10 position, you are automatically put forward to go on the clean boxing program in conjunction with VADA. Non-compliance, and you'll be removed from the rankings. Maybe Tony Bellew was winding him up, but it seems strange that just a day or so before that, I was saying, where's the muscle mass in the arms gone? Now, he may just be training really hard. Could have been the camera angle, like I said before. Before any of you start, I haven't alleged nothing. I'm making observations. I haven't alleged anything. So don't start. If you start, I'm going to block you. I'm going to block you. Because I haven't alleged anything. I'm just correlating the events. I want to see how much David Haye weighs on Friday. That's what I want to see. I'm looking forward to the weigh-in. The likely scenario is that Bellew was just winding him up. And now David Haye, since the Mark Demore comeback, where he looked very heavy and bulky, has just progressed in his workout regime, and he's now at an optimal, preferable fighting weight. And that would explain the lack of mass. Tony Bellew, obviously he isn't juicing. He won't be shaped like that. Just kidding. David Haye should win the fight after it's all said and done by stoppage. I don't think points. If this fight goes the distance, I'd have to think an upset would be likely. David Haye doesn't win many fights on points. If it goes the distance, that's because David Haye hasn't performed as he was supposed to, and it will reflect in the scoring. If it goes the distance, I'd have to think that something went wrong in preparation or in the fight, and Tony Bellew took advantage of that and won. But, I think David Haye should win by stoppage by the 5th round. He might actually take a trip to the canvas himself, which would be interesting. And he can get up off the floor and win. He done it against Stylistic Mock, and he did it against Mormec in France. Now, that was a lighter weight, but then again, he did it against Monty Barrett at heavy. Only the knockdown wasn't registered. Bellew himself got off the canvas and won the cruiserweight title. He also did it against Oville McKenzie, where the referee stopped the fight prematurely, in my opinion. Bellew approached the rematch with Oville McKenzie totally different and kept it at range, showing that he can box in more than one way. This is going to be a better fight than what people think. And if it's not technically better than what people think. It's going to be very exciting, extremely exciting. Unless both men revert to their performances against Adonis Stevenson and Vladimir Klitschko, where they spoke a lot and didn't deliver. I don't think that will happen on Saturday. I think they will try and fulfill all the boasts and the threats and make them manifest in the ring. May the best man win.